Coming. Welcome back to the channel. I've got a bit of a different one today. Today we're talking about the DJI Neo. I've been running this YouTube channel for 2 years now, and getting compelling footage is always a struggle. There are a lot of things I ride, and scale can be pretty hard to get on the camera. I'm constantly climbing down things, setting up cameras, and scrambling back to the top. Friends definitely help, but when I saw Berm Peak review the Hover X1 a while back, I was definitely intrigued. I'm old enough to remember the GoPro Karma drone, and I even have a video from my buddy TJ right here. This was one of the earliest promises of follow mode, and was like 10 years ago. If I remember correctly, it even nearly bankrupted GoPro. And while I've seen drones pop up here and there, it wasn't until this year that things finally seemed plausible. Before we get into it, please subscribe. And drop a comment below with what you found works best for getting the perfect shot. So I've purchased 2 of these drones, and I'll be doing a little bit of comparison, but mostly this video is going to focus on the DJI Neo, how it works, and hopefully answer your questions about, is this right for your mountain biking? I purchased the Hover Air Pro Max first, and boy was that a hit to my wallet. Initial testing with that was short-lived, but I saw huge potential. However, this thing's only $200, so I decided to bite the bullet once again. I watched some YouTube videos on it, and like the Hover, the uses were so far from what I wanted to do that I figured I'd just have to try it myself. So what do you get in the box? Well, after feeling the burn from my last purchase, I opted for the most basic option, but was surprised it even came with propeller replacements. Looking at the drone, it's obviously small, but how small it is hard to convey. So here it is compared to the Hover Pro Max, and it easily fits in this vest pocket. I really like this camera cover. It just clips on and off. It makes me feel better about just stashing it in a pocket. Compared to the Hover Pro, which the whole gimbal kind of bobbles around a bit on that. I'm going to give away a bit of the video and say I probably should have bundled it with a couple more batteries. The drone only has onboard storage, but even with the limited memory, I've never filled it up before killing the battery. For this reason, I'm still playing around with a lot of the features. Let's start by talking about quick shots. These are pretty cool and really easy to use for the most part. Some of them can be a bit narcissistic. Sure, I have a YouTube channel, but I'm not trying to get a bunch of different shots of me just standing still. Circle, Helix, and Rocket are fine, and would be great if I was looking for a Christian rock album cover, but that's not really what I'm looking for here. Spotlight and Droney, those are where it's at. On my Neo, it says Droney, but I think it's the same as Expanse if you look on the website. I've tried hard to work with these. One big issue is while I can pilot the Neo and start recording, when doing that, it doesn't do a good job of focusing or tracking me. With Spotlight and Droney, once it locks onto you, it focuses better and tries to keep you in frame. We'll start by talking about Spotlight. This is a really cool feature, but for mountain biking needs improved. With the elevation change and speed of basically any move I'm trying to film, it needs to be further away. While you can change some parameters of follow and even Droney, you can't with Spotlight. I've tried to work around this by setting up Spotlight, then walking away. This can work surprisingly well, but does get back into that issue of the battery. If I have to climb back up a feature, I'm using precious battery, and some rock faces are too big, and even a smaller drop may require too much of a run up, and the Neo loses track from me going too far. So it would seem to me this could be the easiest fix if DJI is still looking to improve the Neo. Having the ability to set distance for Spotlight would be great. Next, let's talk about Droney. For the issues with Spotlight, I've tried to make my own little hack for shots, and that's by using Droney. As it backs up, I'll try to drop the feature. This can work, but timing is super important, and I'm still working on that. Again, with a short battery life, if I roll down a rock face, I have to run back up, and the more time it takes, the more battery that dies. The last quick shot I should mention, and maybe exactly what I'm looking for, is Boomerang. Droney takes 2 clips, one out and then one back. Boomerang is continuous, so the timing may be easier. However, this one's only accessed through the custom mode in your phone, and so I kind of forgot it existed. I'll report back in a short and maybe a long-term video if I really figure things out. Before we get to follow mode, I want to talk about manual control. I mentioned the biggest issue with this is focus. It doesn't seem to me out of the question, but if DJI did an update where you could pilot the drone to a location and then use your phone to select the subject, that would change things entirely. As it stands, the Neo is much easier to use and more intuitive to pilot than the Hover. It still drains a lot of battery, but I can usually get the Neo into position without fuss. These shots are a pretty good example of the lack of focus. Now let's talk about how this thing follows and if it even can. First off, direction track is a cool idea. It backs up as I move forward, and if I put it to my side, it will even kind of do the sidetrack thing like the Hover. However, this feature is really only good for pretty slow speeds and again struggles when I lose elevation like a rock roll or a drop. It also runs into things pretty easy. So on the whole, direction track is almost useless for mountain biking, and without additional cameras, I really don't see how this could be improved. Now for follow mode. This is probably why a lot of people are looking for this camera, and it's a bit complicated. The honest and quick answer is no. Follow mode doesn't work for mountain biking downhill, especially not in a forest. If you want some climbing clips, it works, and at those speeds can give you a pretty cool perspective. But those aren't the shots people are generally excited about. But if climbing is what you're looking for, this is actually quite great, and also those quick shots and direction track crush it here as well. I'll be taking this thing to Moab shortly, and we'll report back on how it does, with less trees and on the downhill. We'll see how it works on a more wide open trail. But honestly, the top speed is lower than the hover, and with the short bursts of speed that accompany mountain biking, both these struggle, and wide open trails tend to mean even more speed. What Follow does well though, are those features and short bits of trail. It's been hard to figure out, but I like on this rather large rock roll, it mostly worked, and on this straight line step down, it's not bad. The biggest issue is it doesn't seem to want to follow me down, as in reduce elevation. You can see as I roll into this step down, it stays high and eventually runs into the trees. Same on this rock roll. But that gets us to probably the biggest benefit and my pros and cons list. We'll start with the pros. This thing is tough. It's gotten stuck in branches and ran into trees. I did break a propeller after it got stuck in a tree, but it came with a few spares. This rock face is more than 4 stories, and after hitting a branch, the noise it made when it hit the ground had my heart drop. But it was fine. So the biggest pros are definitely the cost and durability. It's also pretty easy to use, but ease of use will also be on my cons list. Let's talk real quick about ease of use. The app is good. Connection to the phone is generally quick and easy, and the manual mode is good. Controlling this from your phone is almost easier, but it's a waste of precious battery life. Where things are weird is the buttons. There are only 2, but turning it on and off are not intuitive, and I couldn't even find instructions for exactly how to turn it off. Basically, it seems the double click to turn it on works to turn it off, but it's not consistent, and sometimes I'll be holding the second click and nothing happens, while other times it turns right off. Also, taking off requires holding the second button, and if you don't hold it long enough, it'll just change modes. This was less of an issue than turning it on and off, but annoying, especially when you're trying not to waste battery. The last ease of use issue is about timing. The hover has a light that changes from green to red, letting you know when it's locked onto your person. The Neo doesn't. This means you could ride away too fast, or more annoying, if you wait too long before you move, it'll stop filming, which means it won't even follow you. Again, using your phone helps, but then you're having it take off, recognize you, and then you're having to stash your phone back in your pocket. So obviously, battery life is an issue. This is definitely a con, but for the size, I see why the battery is the size it is. And if I hadn't spent so much on the hover, I probably would have bought a second battery without an issue. And honestly, I may still. Next is picture quality, but more slow-mo or like more frames per second. I just wish I could get more varied shots. I'm also not sure how long I could run it before filling the memory. So I think it should have a place for an SD card. DJI sells the Neo as I bought it or with 3 batteries. Is there really enough memory for the 3 batteries? I'm guessing that's probably the case, but we'll have to see. And I'm apprehensive to buy more batteries. So I guess the cons are the SD card, no true slow-mo, and battery life. It would seem better video / slow-mo would require the addition of an SD card, and battery life is probably more of an issue of sizing. So what's next? Like I said, I'm going to try out Boomerang mode and let you know how that goes. I also got the hover air back, and so we're going to continue to try that guy out. I'm still struggling with the follow options. It seems for rock rolls, high and close work best, but for riding trails or straight lines, can I do a better combination, whether that's high and far, or mid and far, or mid and close? It doesn't seem consistent, so it's hard to be sure. Like I said before, I'm getting this thing out to Moab and excited to see how it does with less trees. Thanks for watching. I know not all these shots are perfect, but they're getting better, and with this cost and durability, I can definitely recommend this product. I don't have an affiliate link for DJI, but if you need anything for yourself or your ride, check out the other affiliate links in the description, and please subscribe. Now get out there, go fast, and take chances. See you next week.